Good morning, it's Tuesday morning and you're very welcome to our Tuesday morning thought for today. This morning we're really looking at the whole issue of the Sabbath and how the Jews understood and still understand the Sabbath to be a day that is a very special day. In fact, you could probably go a bit further than saying it's a day that is special to them. It is a day which is venerated. Across the world, we know of different religions that have certain places that they hold in very high esteem or that are venerated by them as being the most important place. For Islam, it's obviously Mecca. For Hinduism, they've got the Ganges River. And we think of Shintoism and the way they look at the whole of the island of Japan. And for the Jews, you could say that Jerusalem was that place. You could even take it further and say that the temple in Jerusalem was that place which was the highest, holiest thing that they had in their religion. But in actual fact, it goes beyond even the temple. It goes to, believe it or not, the observance of the Sabbath. The Sabbath was seen as such an important ruling, if you like, an ordinance, if you like. In fact, it was looked at in such a way that the Talmud, the Jewish law, taught that anyone who was involved in keeping the Sabbath was also involved almost in partnership with God in the whole creation process. It was held in such high esteem. And it still is in many ways. And we thought about some of the rules on Sunday that the Jews still have about the Sabbath and what they could get away with and what they couldn't get away with and what they had to observe and what they didn't have to observe. And some of them just sound completely incredible to us. And yet, when I read through those facts, and when I think about how they held the Sabbath day, in many ways, it started off with what God said, obviously in the fourth commandment, about keeping the Sabbath day holy, and how the Sabbath day was meant to be that important day. But it evolved and it grew and it expanded and it became something they built upon. And they built 30-something different laws to do with the work and the things you could and could not do on the Sabbath day. And it really became such a huge thing that you wonder how you could get out of bed on a Sabbath morning and actually get anything right, because there were so many things you could so easily get wrong. And as you read through the Old Testament, and as you read then into the New Testament, and how Jesus came along and how Jesus very subtly in some ways, but very obviously in other ways. And we're going to think a little bit more about that as this week goes on. But it made me wonder, the whole Sabbath observance, how far has it come? How strict was it? What did God actually want from the Sabbath day when he first initiated it? And so when you think about how important it was for the Jewish people, how it still is important for the Jewish people, and how it still should be something that's of great importance for us. What does our Sabbath look like? What does our day of rest look like? And sometimes we overlap the idea of Sabbath and Sunday, and we compare them as the same thing. And I'm wondering, actually, are they the same thing? But the Sabbath is meant to be that day when we take a day off, where we rest from our work, and it's been given to us for very practical reasons, and we'll think about that either tomorrow or Thursday. But the whole idea of the Sabbath and Sunday being the same day isn't necessarily the way it should be. The Sunday was the day we worship God, the day we set aside as a church, because Christ rose on the first day of the week, the Sunday. And so the church moved the Sabbath, if you like, to the Sunday, and we worship God. On Sunday we come together in church on Sunday. But Sunday and Sabbath have all become very blurred, and many people have to work shifts. Many people don't get the day off. Many people can't get to church because of their work. And so they take another day in the week as their day off. And for them, that is their Sabbath rest, in a sense. And yet Sunday goes on as a day of worship. And so what I'm really saying this morning is I want you to think about your Sunday. I want to think about your Sabbath. And if you're able to take your Sunday and your Sabbath, the day you worship God, and also the day you take as a day of rest on the same day, I think there's added benefit and added blessing on that, because you're not distracted by work. And so you can go to church, you can still yourself, you can think. Obviously we can't go to church in the literal sense at the moment, for a couple of weeks anyway, but there's that sense of taking that time when we gather corporately which is what the church is meant to do. The church is only a church when it really gathers corporately and worships together. And so are you able to take the two together? Because if you can worship together and then have the rest of the day when you don't have to go to work, I think there's an opportunity then to ponder over the things you heard this morning, in the morning, to maybe get your Bibles out, to chase up some of the things you heard, to maybe read a commentary or two. But there's a blessing in having your Sunday day of worship as well as your Sabbath day of rest on the same day. And I think sometimes we often say, well, I'll go to church, and as soon as church is over, well, I'll go and do what I want. I'll get on with the rest of the day. I'll do this, that, or the other. Or I'll go into work in the afternoon. And I think if we can keep the two together, now it's obviously very difficult in the world we're living in to keep the two separate, or to keep the two together because they are separated so much. But your body needs a Sabbath day of rest, but your soul also needs a Sabbath day to worship God, and to take that day as a separate day, a day different from all others, a day when you give it to the Lord and say, I'm going to spend today thinking about you. I don't think the Pharisees got it right. I think they maybe built on something which they maybe misunderstood, and they turned the Sabbath into a burden for people instead of a release and an opportunity for them to be blessed through it. I've rambled on long enough this morning, but query for yourself, how do you observe your Sabbath? What is your Sunday? Are the two of them the same? And what could you do more to get the blessing from taking a day of worship and the Sabbath day of rest at the same time? Thoughts for the day, just something to chew over as you go through today. I've got something more to think about tomorrow. So see you then. God bless.